sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Listen, if you're like me, you hate doing admin crap. Number one, because you're not good at it. And number two, because you know it's taking you away from the stuff that actually makes you money. So why are you doing it? Do what I did. Go to worksby.com right now and let them pair you with a real executive assistant. Once I started working with Cheryl at Worksby, my income went up 40% in 1 month, and my working hours went from 70 down to 40. It's a game changer. Go to worksby.com right now, book a call, and tell them Walker sent you. If you do, you'll get 2 extra hours of service for free as a bonus. So if you're ready to finally stop doing the stuff you hate and focus on the stuff that makes you money, go to worksby.com right now. That's WORXBEE.com. Tell them Walker sent you, and you'll get those 2 free hours. Sales School Podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. Today, I've got a buddy of mine. His name is Pete Ryan, and he's the CEO and founder of a company called CoSell. And CoSell is a software platform that helps companies combine their CRMs to facilitate introductions. The reason I want you to listen today is because I want you to hear why co-selling is the future of sales and what you need to know about it so you don't miss out on this. Hey, Pete, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot for having me, Walker.
I'm so glad you're here. Tell me, outside of, well, take a minute, take 2 minutes and tell me how you got to be founder and CEO of CoSell. What's your background? What's your story?
Yeah, so, I'm a 13-year sales vet, second-time entrepreneur, born and raised in Chicago, moved to San Francisco in 2008. And worked at Oracle, LinkedIn, Double Dutch, Trello, Atlassian, and then
dude, you can't keep a job anywhere, can you?
Right, it's funny, right? I talked to my grandfather, and it's like he's so shocked by how many jobs I've had in the last 13 years. Like he sold like women's clothing for 40 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My father's same way, right? He practiced law for 45 years, same firm, or he kind of moved his firm along, and they don't do that shit anymore. Do you see it as a negative in any way when you're hiring somebody if they've worked for 5 or 6 different companies?
Yeah, as long as they've been there for a year and a half and they have a good story of why they left, right, and pursued the next opportunity. I think it's not the best thing when I see sales folks that stayed at a company for like 10 years, right? It's like, well, why didn't you leave? Whereas before, it was like that was such a plus. But I think the world's changed a little bit. We're like mercenaries in sales and entrepreneurship. So
yeah. You said something, I'll let it go. What was your first startup?
Yeah, so first startup was GoGoHire. It was a hiring marketplace for sales talent. And so kind of where we fit in the market was all the best candidates, right? You weren't going to find on a job board, right? All the best candidates you find on LinkedIn. But when it comes to sales, right? Like what we did is we attracted like all the best salespeople to join GoGoHire, and we had this like flipped auction where companies would go on and essentially see a pool of candidates for 2 weeks and then put in interview requests with. So it's kind of an auction style marketplace.
Okay, cool. And did you sell that or did it fail?
We had an offer from actually a company called Hired, which is in our space. And then, just stars didn't align. And so, I could mark that one as a failure, right? We grew it to about $1 million ARR, but it was interesting timing, right? Because, I was working on it and then all this life stuff happened, right? It was like my mom passed from cancer, lost 2 friends to suicide. And I think when you're working on a startup, you need to be like just heads down, feeling good, hopefully, right?
Best you can.
Yeah, right.
Because everything else is kicking your ass all the time. So yes, understand.
Right. What is it like?
So what's your
Elon
big?
Musk. Elon Musk says, working on a startup is like eating broken glass every day. I guess.
Yeah, right.
But I tend to agree with that, but it's also so rewarding. So.
So what's the lesson you learned from the first one? Because I failed a ton this morning already. What did you learn from the failure of the first?
Yeah. So I think first off, like the hiring market is just extremely crowded, right? And so we were up against that. Plus, we were building a marketplace, right? Marketplaces are notoriously difficult because you're really having to build two different products, right, for two different markets.
Yes.
And then I think the other piece is like I probably worked on it. I worked on it for 2.5 years when really I probably should have. Once I was, dealing with all that turmoil in my life, I probably should have like just walked away and yeah, exactly. But
hindsight though, man, it's 2020. You never know, right? And we are where we are. You made the decisions you made, and that sends you along a different rich path, right? The fact that you held off for the year or whatever took you down a different rich path to take you where you are today. So
yeah.
Who knows that's right or wrong. So anyway, so you had that one. I kind of got lost in the story there. So what turned you on to CoSell?
Yeah. So CoSell is a company that I would be so excited to work on for the rest of my life, right? Because the problem is just so huge, which, the problem we're really solving is that the ownership of demand gen has really shifted from marketing to sales. And so sales has been trying to drive a lot more leads through what we call like brute force automation. And so, bottom line is like most.
Let me slow you down for a minute because I just want to make
sure
we're not using too many buzzwords.
Right.
What is demand gen? Tell us what that means.
Yeah.
I know what it means. What does it mean?
Yeah. So there's two different types of demand gen, right? One is marketing demand gen, right? So, setting up paid search, for instance, that would be, Google search to drive leads to your site. Sales demand gen is really, driving leads through in most cases, cold outbound prospecting. So sending
emails, calling, whatever. Yeah. Generating. Yep. Start up yourself. Yes.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And so, the bottom line is like the most sales teams think that the more emails they send in an automated way, the more phone calls they make through a power dialer, or the more emails they send, they're going to get better returns. Right. And so what we've seen in the last, 5 or so years is that, prospects are fatigued. Right. And I think even more so during the pandemic. Right. And so getting in touch with that CMO or that CRO or that CTO has just become so much harder. Right. And so, with CoSell, like how I kind of stumbled upon this actually was I was at Trello. I was their head of enterprise sales. Trello gets acquired by Atlassian. I'm super excited about the acquisition because Atlassian has 100,000 customers, right? Trello has 500 enterprise customers. Wow. And so the best we could actually end up doing was like, we created this Slack channel called Referrals for Sales. And so, someone on the Trello team would go on there and say, hey, on the Atlassian side, who owns the General Electric account, right? And then Jill on the Atlassian side would say, oh, that's me. Happy to make an intro into the account, right? And so I knew that there had to have been a better way, right? Because this just really wasn't scalable at all. And it actually took about 3 years. We were both on like two separate Salesforce instances. It took about 3 years just to merge the two. But then even then, it was so messy, so on and so forth. So that's really where like CoSell was born. Is like, you have these sales teams, right, that are going after the same buyer, whether it be a company that was acquired or a company that's partnered with another company in the space that's not competitive. And they're both going after the same buyers in parallel. Why not unlock all this tribal knowledge, right? And all these sales insights, all these referrals, all these relationships in one centralized platform. And that's really what CoSell does, right? It's essentially, it's a network for sales teams to surface the prospect and customer overlap with their partners to drive the exchange of warm introductions and share sales insights. So it kind of goes off of like the concept of you're much better together than going at it alone. Yeah. Or, high tides raise all ships type of deal. And
so it's a little bit like, so what you're telling me is it's a more automated version
Yep.
of, I mean, like I can look on LinkedIn and I can see, well, John and Susan and 55 other people are connected to this person over here. So I can go through that list of 55 and see if I can find the right one to introduce me. But you found a way to do that within 2 partners or more, correct? Is that the way that works?
Exactly. Yes. Yep.
So
Yeah.
how in the world would somebody pick who they're, I mean, so I'm going to have my CRM.
Yep.
And there'll be another company that I don't know, we decided to partner together. We're calling on similar people. We do different things, but I'm actually going to agree to open up my CRM for somebody else and them to me. That seems like a long shot that we could make all that work, that somebody would even want to do that.
Right. Yeah. So, and it comes up all the time, right? It's like, why would a company want to connect their CRM to CoSell, right? It's like connecting your bank account, right, to an unknown entity type of thing.
Yeah.
And so, what we say there is like, these existing channels, right? They're, every CRO will agree that these existing channels, email, phone, LinkedIn, are really drying up. And so, the companies that are actually co-selling today, right? They're doing it all in the back of a spreadsheet, right? It's actually what I did at Trello, right? We partnered up with this company called Unito that we integrated with, and we would do an export of our Salesforce, all of our prospects and customers, send that over to Unito. They would do this kind of, exercise of finding out where there's overlap. And then like weeks later, we would, and of course, like territories change, opportunities change.
Yeah.
So this is a way, right, where, you're connecting your CRM. We actually don't touch any sort of contact level data. It's all about just the account company level data. So we don't have to mess with any GDPR or CCPA issues. And then what we're doing is we're only surfacing the overlaps, right? So all the other data, that does not overlap with your partner is completely hidden from the view. And so, we're in the process of getting our SOC 2 type 2. There's some companies.
All right, well, let me stop saying, make sure, because I don't understand yet. So what happens is I have my CRM with all my information. My company has the CRM with all my stuff in it, and we decide to. And is it 2 companies that are merged, or could they just be partner companies? That be just buddy. Let's see if we can do this thing together, kind of thing.
I always I was in Atlanta recently, and I saw a billboard in the airport, and it was Zoom and Slack better together, right? And so that's like the perfect example of a partnership where Zoom and Slack, they're both going after the same buyer, right?
Yep.
And so it can be external partners. It can be, we're in talks with some companies that, like some holding companies, right, that have all these companies that are going after the same market, and they're all kind of doing the same parallel activities. It's just it's completely inefficient. And if I go back to Trello and Atlassian, I'll bet you we left millions on the table, right? Just as a result of not having both these CRMs.
Because I'm trying to find a contact at GE, for example, and I'm hunting and pecking and trying to find, and then somebody who is in a sister company to mine, they've got 4 connections that they can reach in one time. And why the hell am I not? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's right. And most people tend to agree, like warm intros, referrals, they're gold, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And so, being able to leverage, your partners where there's these aligned incentives, right? In most cases, a lot of companies will have like a referral partnership. Hey, you refer me into this account, right? Into this decision maker.
20% or 10% or whatever, and we'll do that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, really, the problem that we're solving, right, is it's the security problem, right? Like no more spreadsheets. The productivity problem, right? Like, having to do all this stuff offline. And then really, the hardest, one of the hardest and most frustrating thing, it's like sitting in really bad traffic, is like, how do you measure and track co-selling success? And if you have this one single, platform to do that, it's, night and day difference. So, today we just signed on our 21st customer. We have over 250 companies on the platform, and we're just super.
So
excited
a customer, a customer for you may be, like you said, a holding company of 5 different companies, correct? Where they've got a natural reason to partner together. So it sounds to me like you must have a bunch of those holding companies or parent companies that are all directing their younger ones together. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we have one company that's a customer that's a holding company, and then the rest of our customers are actually companies that have their own existing partner ecosystem. So, for instance, Sendoso, right? When we approached them, they already had over 100 partners, right?
Wow.
So
But they were just doing it the old manual way. They were doing it on a spreadsheet or some other bullshit way.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, just spending countless hours going and back and forth. And they know that it's an area that they want to invest in. Right. And I think a lot of companies now are kind of pulling partnerships and channel forward, right? Because it's this, this new channel. And up until now, there hasn't really been any software to manage it. So for Sendoso, right, we essentially power their entire ecosystem. Right. And so
how long have they been working with you?
2 months. They've closed 2 partner source deals. So it just,
nice.
It's been some great wins. And
who owns the data?
So the company owns the data. Yeah. So we're syncing with the CRM, but we're not actually storing any of the data. Right. So yeah, that's also the key. And then, for companies like, say, an Oracle or an Accenture, right, where the security review just to connect anything to their CRM, right, would be years. We actually now have a CSV uploader, right, where you can still get some of the benefits of collaboration, tracking warm intros, but we don't have to connect to your CRM. You just upload a spreadsheet.
Got it. Okay. All right. So you can handle that as well. My guess is I am sure that there are corporate leadership teams that are all about, hell yeah, you guys need to share your stuff. We're partners with these guys, blah, blah. But my guess is that the typical pain in the ass is going to be the salespeople because they don't like to change. Most of them are guarding their contacts like crazy. You can think of a million reasons like, I don't want them to screw up my relationship or I'm not going to give them my data. How in the hell do you get salespeople to change?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, right? And so it's, I think the most exciting thing about what we're doing is that we're changing behavior, right? And so
well, that you have to change behavior.
We have
to otherwise, if you don't
behavior.
change behavior, it's freaking done, right? Because this is all about that. So
right.
How are you changing that behavior?
Yeah, so the easiest thing for us is like the initial target, right, until we build like trust in the marketplace is to go after companies that are already doing some sort of form of co-selling, right? But even then, right, if they're doing co-selling, they have their process in place. There's oftentimes this mistrust between partnerships and sales, right? It's like, yes. the sales team thinks that the partner manager just wants to attach themselves to deals.
Trying to steal their stuff. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and and our data shows that too, right? Like we did a survey with 89 CROs and channel partner managers, and we asked them the question, how difficult or easy is it to get your sales team behind co-selling? And roughly 60% of them either said it's very difficult or difficult, right? And so there's kind of this, this issue of, partnerships and sales, they're separate, right? I think where this is going to go, right, is that partnerships are just naturally happening, right? You're seeing like all these companies integrate with each other, right? The API economy is just totally booming. It's actually number of APIs have doubled in the last 2 years. And then there's also this kind of other trend, right? Which is like the consumerization of software, right? Like how companies are buying software will change, right? And you're kind of seeing this with like the AWS ecosystem where you can buy, accounting software, right? And have it just tacked on to your AWS bill. And
right.
So,
yes.
There was like an Accenture study that came out. It was like, 63% of executives believe that ecosystems, that's the future. That's going to be the next route for growth. Mm-hmm. And so, you kind of have like this storm happening of, companies connecting with one another, rise of ecosystems, there's increased competition. And so, like more companies are just getting funded. They're all doing this like same outreach. So it's kind of like how we're positioning it is more like, hey, if you're not using CoSell today, you're at a competitive disadvantage. But eventually, right, it's just going to be such a thing where it's like, how can I not be on CoSell, right? It's just such a massive competitive disadvantage. And so it's, I think for Brendan and I, like, that's what excites us, right? Is because, even, Brendan was really early LinkedIn. He's my co-founder. Brendan Cassidy is his name. He was employee like 15 at LinkedIn.
Wow.
First head of sales. I was early. I was like employee 200, but not quite as early as Brendan. And
G is Brendan, right? Yes.
And so, early days LinkedIn, this is how it was, right? Like, at the time we were going up against, Monster and Hot Jobs and Ladders. And, LinkedIn was kind of like, how would we ever recruit on this, right? And now it's like,
It's the monster.
Yeah. And not to say that, CoSell is like the next LinkedIn by any means, but
we hope so.
certainly hope so. But, we're certainly excited about it. And, the response has been just terrific, right? From the sales team.
So what I'm hearing, and maybe I'm just dumb, but what I'm thinking is like and I'm old too, dumb and old, it's a bad combination, but I remember in the 80s and the 90s, there were companies that actually were buying each other because of synergies, right? Where our sales teams have synergies, and we're all of a sudden, but this is the same. It's more, it's, what do they call it? Like a synthetic matchup like that, because you're just sharing the important stuff, right? Is it similar to that, right? We've got synergy, our sales teams have synergies. Let's share our information in a way that doesn't give away our store, but allows us to know who we could tap into with our partner to do that. Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly it. And we're actually building that into the product, right? And so, one of the biggest challenge, right, for especially earlier stage companies is, well, who do I partner with, right? Like, and so the experience we want to have is you connect your data to CoSell, and then in the CoSell network, you can find other companies that are actually going after your same ICP. And then you'll actually see like high level overlapping data, right? Meaning,
so anybody that's connected to ICP, anybody's connected to CoSell, if I'm on CoSell, I can look and say, oh, hell, John over there at whatever the hell company, I don't know John, but he's calling the same people I'm trying to get into. So you can actually, it's not just with the companies you decide to partner with, it's with the whole freaking CoSell network.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we've kind of thrown this around, right? It's kind of like the LinkedIn for B2B sales partnerships, right? Is, you can discover these other companies that, are going after, the same buyer, right? Same market. And you have overlapping accounts, right? You should spark up a conversation and establish a partnership, right? Because a lot of times, like, these partnerships will happen and they're kind of just done, the old fashioned handshake way. And then only to find out that, the sales team may not be going after like the same parallel, market and buyer. So we're able to
it's left up to each partner. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
it's left up to each partner to establish a relationship with somebody else on the CoSell network.
Right. Or you can invite someone from outside the network, right? It's, I think like, at the core of it, we're solving the problem. And a lot of sales people have experienced this, founders have experienced this, where they'll go and have coffee with someone, right? That's, at a different company, but selling into the same buyer. And there's all this talk, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to help you. You're going to help me.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I know all these people, right. Blah, blah, blah. Yes.
And then nothing happens, right? Our belief is that nothing happens because it's too much work. You have to go, do this account mapping. You've got to go back and forth on, you're going to intro me to this person, that person. Like, all of this should be, automated in some form, or, um, you know, easy. It should be easy, right? And that's what we're building, right?
So what's the thing right now when you look at where you are with your software? What's the things you say, this is not up to speed? This is the thing at CoSell right now we've got to work on next. What is that?
Yeah. So I think what we're most excited about is, so there's 4 steps in co-selling, right? One is I need to find my partners and connect with them on co-sell, right? The second is I want to see where there's overlap, right, that I have with those partners. Third is I want to actually execute co-selling, make warm intros. If I'm a CRO, I want to connect 2 sales reps, right? My sales rep and a partner sales rep, and just get them to talk about accounts, share sales insights. And then the last piece is actually tracking and measuring success. And so I would say, like, right now where we're at, right? And again, we just got funding in November of 2020, so we're still pretty early.
Hell yes.
We're still, like, we're good at number 1 and 2. Number 3 we're working on, and number 4 it just isn't here yet, right?
Remind me about 3 and 4. What are those? Tell me one more time.
Yeah. So number 3 is executing the co-selling, right? Like the future that I imagine here is with a few clicks, right? You integrate with your Gmail or Outlook account, and you can create templates for making warm intros, to be received or to give them, and it all happens within co-sell, right? And once we nail that, then, like, tracking and measuring success should be pretty straightforward, right? Because we'll connect to the CRM and we'll know, okay, this rep was introduced to Google, and that Google deal ended up closing. So that's a partner source deal. So
got it.
But
I can still hear pushback from sales guys where they might say, I don't want somebody else to fuck up my relationship. I mean, how in the world do you fight that? I mean, it's just building trust, I guess, is where this goes to, correct?
Co-selling is all about trust, right? And so, we're putting a lot of emphasis on each sales rep having their own profile, right? Where, they, are like building up reviews, right? Because, like, when a warm intro happens, it's almost like, okay, I just went on an Uber, and that was a great ride. I'm going to give him 5 stars, right?
Yep, got it.
There's that component. And then there's also, sales reps are always thinking, what's in it for me? And so a lot of the companies on CoSell have, like, referral partnerships in place, right? So 10, 20, 30%. And some of those companies actually pay out the sales reps, right? They'll give them spiffs for making a partner, a partner intro, right? Because they want, that partner to do the same for them.
Okay.
But, I think I didn't really talk about step 5, but I think that's, like, probably step 5, right? After you track and measure success, actually being able to do, like, the payment processing on CoSell.
Right. So it goes through.
Yeah. So you get paid out on
now,
intro.
but you told me that you guys are now, you have agreements in place between companies where if you introduce us to somebody, we'll pay you 10%, or if we do this back, so those are standardized agreements.
Every company kind of has their, general counsel, right? So they're somewhat standard, but, they're going to have different language here and there. But, I think that's a great opportunity for CoSell, right? To actually just have one standardized like master services agreement for this type of, partnership. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of blown my mind. Can I tell you a couple of things that that have stuck out with me?
Absolutely.
Number one is I like where you're going with this, because I see a whole bunch of bumpy shit that you're dealing with, but it's a whole lot less bumpy than trying to do it without you guys as the intermediary. You guys are taking a messy, nasty kind of a mesh, and you're at least creating a pavement over the top, and that will get better and better and better over time, like LinkedIn was back in the day. That was the most clunky, awkward, shitty program until it wasn't, right?
Right.
And so I love that you're doing that. I also, what you said at the beginning of the podcast was brilliant, I thought. So when you look at somebody that's been in a place for 10 years and now they're looking for a job, is your question is, why the hell did they stay at the other place so long, right? Why were they not looking for another opportunity? And I think that's amazing. And I think that's not the way a lot of people look at it, but I think you're onto something there. I want to hire ambitious salespeople who want to do the best they can. And loyalty is worth what it's worth. So how would somebody find you? How would somebody find you, Pete, to if you want to get in touch about your product or whatever?
Yeah. So, obviously if you want to check out CoSell, just CoSell.io is the site. And, I'm an open book. You can contact me at my email, pete@CoSell.io, or just find me on LinkedIn, Pete Ryan at CoSell, and happy to answer any questions or, anything. I think what's exciting, right, is like we're in this newer market, right, which is like it's channel's been around, but like B2B referral partnerships, right, is somewhat new. And so we actually also came out with an ebook, right? You can find it on our blog at CoSell.io. It's a 46-page ebook, and it kind of goes over like just best practices of co-selling. We have a ton of data in there from surveys that we've sent out.
Awesome.
So yeah, would certainly recommend checking that out too.
Good. Hey, that's great. No BS sales team, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation today. I think Pete is talking about something now, and many of you guys are probably going, oh, what the fuck is that? And what you're going to find probably is in 2 to 3 to 4 years, this is going to be on your front door, if not sooner than that. I mean, Pete would tell you right now, of course, Pete works with a lot of the software and technology companies that are out there on the cutting edge of everything anyway, but just know probably to your hometown, to your home company, in your space, if not you, your competitors are going to be using this stuff to their advantage. So just listen out for CoSell. Go check out Pete's stuff. If you are struggling with sales right now, maybe you're pretty good, but you say, shit, I am missing some deals, or I feel like I'm wasting time with people that aren't buying from me, or I'm doing too much free consulting, send me an email, walker@walkermckay.com. Let's have a quick no BS conversation. Maybe I can help you. Maybe I can't. But I'd be happy to have a conversation. And if I can't help you, I can send you to somebody else probably that can. Hey, Pete Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the show today, for being straight up with us and being a good no BS guy. I appreciate you very much.
I appreciate it too, Walker. Thanks for having me.